Throughout all of history, different people have used holy texts to consecrate and sanctify their beliefs. Whether it has been done for better or worse, we cannot deny that we have twisted these texts in the way that we see fit. Today I will be looking at the story and lore of BloodBorne and comparing it to Christianity and similarities in the Bible. This is in no way the true inspiration for any of the BloodBorne lore. However, I do believe it is very interesting to see the similarities between the two. So, let us begin our journey into the nightmare. Moses, in the Bible, is a man of great power, who led the Israelites out of Egypt, was given the 10 Commandments by God, but would eventually fail to bring the Israelites to the Promised Land. You may ask yourself, how could such a holy man fail in his duty? What could he have possibly done to spite the Lord? For you see, like all humans, Moses had character flaws. The two that would bring about his downfall would be his inability to follow God's commands and his reluctance. Now, as for Lawrence, let us start our journey at Byrgenwerth. Byrgenwerth was a place of learning, meant for scholars to study and make contact with the great ones. The scholars of Byrgenwerth wished to see how far human knowledge could go. However, as we all know, if you gaze into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. Nietzsche. Willem, the head of Byrgenwerth, had this adage that he taught: fear the old blood. However, Lawrence, another scholar, and a dear friend of Willem, disagreed. Lawrence confided his trust in the old blood, even though promising Willem he would continue to fear it. Lawrence believed humans could transcend humanity by infusing the old blood into themselves. Parting ways over their disagreeing philosophies, Lawrence went to Yarnum. In Yarnum, he showed the healing properties of blood ministration from the old blood. The old blood would eventually be the cause of the spread of beasts and the hunt. We now know what Lawrence caused, but what about Moses? Moses met his downfall at Kadesh. When the people ran out of water, God commanded Moses to speak to a rock to bring out water for the dehydrated masses. Instead, Moses gathered all the leaders and people around the rock, only to show off and strike the rock with his staff. While water emerged, God was not pleased. For their insolence and lack of faith, he said unto them, because you did not trust in me, to show my holiness before the eyes of the Israelites, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land that I have given them. Book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 12. And so it was that Moses would never lead the Israelites into the Holy Land. Like Moses, Lawrence would eventually be punished for his betrayal as well. Lawrence fell to the plague, transforming into the first cleric beast. These beasts were the most hellish and primal. Lawrence would be cursed by the villagers of the fishing hamlet, to be forever trapped within the hunter's nightmare. Not even here pity was taken on him. Both figures were great leaders that would succumb to their sins, and both betraying their masters. Lawrence's appearance is himself on fire, similar to that of the burning bush that was the medium for God to talk to Moses through. Another similarity is their respective shrines. Moses was ordered by God to construct the tabernacle to transport the 10 Commandments. This shrine is more commonly known as the Ark of the Covenant. When I look at both shrines where Lawrence's skull resides at, it reminds me of the Ark of the Covenant, both being cornerstones of their respective churches. Enough of Lawrence and Moses, though. Our next subject of comparison will be Ludwig, the Holy Blade, and Joshua. Ludwig, the most famed hunter, the scourge of beasts, and the savior of the Yarnamites. At least he would be, until he too succumbed to being blood drunk. Ludwig was a captain of the hunt who recruited his fellow Yarnamites to become hunters, and he too decided when the hunt ended for the night with the hunter chief emblem. Joshua, in the Bible, was a leader who would truly lead the Israelites to the Promised Land. After Moses' death, leadership was passed on to Joshua, a cunning leader that the Israelites needed. God proclaimed to Joshua after the death of Moses, "My servant Moses is dead. Now proceed to cross the Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, the Israelites." Book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 2. Joshua would continue to take over various parts of the Holy Land, conquering almost all of it by the time of his death. Ludwig, through his hunts, would one day find the Holy Moonlight Sword. This sword would guide him throughout all of his hunts, and would serve him dearly one last time, letting him regain his fragmented humanity in his final fight against the Good Hunter.
At my side, all alone.
Both Ludwig and Joshua share many similarities. They are both leaders who conquer their respective goals and recruit people for their cause. Both of them are also guided by something holy as well. Ludwig, as seen earlier, is guided by the holy moonlight sword. This sword accompanies him into his battles, allowing him to grow stronger. However, Joshua is guided by the Lord. After being given God's blessings, he said unto him, "No one shall be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I shall be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you." Book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 4. As a side note, similar to how Wilhelm feels betrayed by Lawrence, but still prays for him, the Lord felt betrayed by Moses, but still guided him up until his death. Note, Moses died within sight of the Holy Land promised to him. Both of them can be viewed in a negative light as well for their cruelty. Ludwig is criticized by his peers for being a beast-possessed degenerate. As his weapons suggest, Ludwig was all about power and brute force over skill. His weapons were meant to take on the largest beasts in the most violent and glorious way possible. No longer were the hunts a discreet job during the night. The hunt was for everyone now. Joshua, though, I believe is a much darker tale. In order to take the Holy Land, Joshua seized many cities, but these sieges did not come at a light cost. For example, during the siege of Jericho, only the woman and her family that hid Joshua's scouts were spared. It is written, "So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sounds of trumpets, they raised a great shout, and the wall fell down flat. So the people charged straight ahead into the city and captured it. Then they devoted to destruction by edge of the sword all in the city, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys." Book of Joshua, chapter 6, verse 20 to chapter 6, verse 22. One doesn't have to go much farther to imagine what other atrocities were committed in the name of the Holy Land. Our final tale for this video will be the comparison of Old Yarnum and the city of Ai. Old Yarnum is the first tragedy to befall Yarnum, and is ground zero for the spread of the beasts. Perhaps, one night, after one too many drinks, two men got into a bar fight, and being blood drunk and tinted by the scotch, one of them turned into a beast from the violence and anger. Or maybe it happened in the middle of town, on a bright sunny day, from a nobleman, transforming into a Mr. Hyde-like creature. We can never know for certain. Only the stench of blood, fire, the beasts, and their protector, Dejura, remain. Ai was a city occupied by the Canaanites, that would be besieged by Joshua and his men. They took the city by ambushing it through the rear of the west side. Once inside, they set fire to the city. As soon as he stretched out his hand, the troops in ambush rose quickly out of their place and rushed forward. They entered the city, took it, and at once set the city on fire. Book of Joshua, chapter 8, verse 19. Like Ai, Old Yarnum was slaughtered. The hunters came and eradicated all they could, but seeing the overwhelming odds, they burned Old Yarnum to the ground. Old Yarnum remained a sort of sanctuary for beasts under the protection of Dejura. However, I was not as fortunate. That day, 12,000 men and women were slaughtered, and the livestock taken as spoils. Then, by his own hand, Joshua finished the job he started. So Joshua burned Ai, and made it a heap of ruins, as it is to this day. Book of Joshua, chapter 8, verse 28. That concludes today's look into Bloodborne's lore and its similarities to the Bible. These are in no means the official inspiration for the story of Bloodborne. However, I think it's interesting to compare to the Bible, since Bloodborne takes heavy inspiration from religion. Until next time, let the fire guide you.